Hi there, and welcome back to the Hub of Junior Golf Podcast. I'm Ryan Burr, joined as always by the founder of the Junior Golf Hub, Roger Nick. Roger, so glad to be back. Boy, we have been really hitting some out of the ballpark as of late as far as coaches, listening to the different philosophies in regards to the transfer portal, in regards to recruiting high school players. It's fascinating to hear how differently coaches are now approaching their college roster.
Yeah, for sure, Ryan. One of the things that actually resonated with me, and actually was talking to our producer Michael about this as well, is the human story about the coaches themselves and how they got to where they are. I mean, and you think about what they bring into that and why the common thread possibly, and how they're using this common thread of their personalities, their experiences, to then go find players that fit their kind of environment, if you will, the environment that they're trying to create that creates hopefully more winning, more development, more the whole person. It seems as though we've had tremendous guests. Our coaches have come on, have just been not just great golf coaches and not just promoting golf, but really what are they doing to create an environment for these young people that they're bringing in and saying, hey, you're part of our family now. So that's been very interesting.
Yeah, I look at it and the portal, especially in some other sports, is kind of completely out of control because it is just free agency, right? I mean, you look at football and it's just blatant free agency. I'm going to go buy a quarterback. I need a quarterback. Every single quarterback, no matter how happy you are, you have to get in the portal so you can make your $1 million to be a Power Five Division I quarterback. That's the going rate. And if you're going to get paid $1 million to be the quarterback in the Power Five, you need to go get $1 million.
Yeah.
Golf, you're not getting paid. I actually think the portal might be working the best of any sport in golf because, simply put, if you're at a big school and not playing, you get in the portal to go to a smaller school where more likely you would play. Conversely, if out of junior golf you went to a smaller school, played very well, well, now a bigger school is going to want you because you've been proven at the college level. There's not this crazy financial exchange. Guys aren't getting paid massive sums of money in a just a blatant free agency move. I play college golf at USC. UCLA is offering me more money, so I'm just going to leave. I mean, golf, it seems to actually, whether you like it or not, and I'm curious for your opinion, if you like it or not, at least it does benefit both sides of the coin, so to speak.
Oh, I love it for that very reason. And, I've probably spoken to you a couple times about this. We have a couple of kids from the Golf Performance Center who went to smaller schools, became All-Americans, did well, and now getting opportunities at the next level, and vice versa. To your point, I think it is the best scenario. Golf is, like you said, not the money sport. It's not the money grab. It is actually, in fact, the best fit grab in so many ways. Right now, those guys and gals have gone out, done well, got recruited at the top schools, the Power Five schools, not playing, have other opportunities, right? And the junior golfers, to your point, coming up, playing extremely well, maybe didn't get recruited, maybe they didn't play in the right events, whatever the reason, and then go on to school. Maybe it's a JUCO school, maybe it's a small D3 school, D2, and have an outstanding start to their career. They get opportunity, right? So it does, and in fact, to your point, it works both ways, and I think that's how it should work. It's not like kids are jumping out, jumping in because of the money, like you said, with other sports. I think it's the way it should be.
And is probably, you look at football or basketball, okay, you're very good at the D2 level. Boy, is that going to translate? Well, you have a call it a 6-foot player that you're traditionally guarding you and you're guarding. Okay, now I'm going to try to go to the ACC or the SEC, and now how am I going to fare when someone that is all of a sudden way more athletic at 6'6" guarding me? Golf, I feel like, you know what? D2's playing 7,500 yards too. And that golf score is going to the coach at the Power Five is going to be, there's really not a whole lot of gray there.
No.
You're the player of the year in your conference at D2, D3, whatever it is. Hey, man, your score is your score in golf.
Yeah, it is. And they're also looking at it from the standpoint of I'm playing in different conditions. So I'm playing in those conditions that are, windy, cold, rainy, whatever it may be, wherever they may be in the country from the school perspective. So I think, they're proving themselves that they are worthy of that next opportunity.
And we welcome in the head women's coach at the University of New Mexico, entering her 18th season. Long time, the head coach, Jill Trujillo. Coach, thanks so much for joining us. I hate to say that's a long time, but in today's world with so much movement and the grass is always greener, wow, what an accomplishment. 18 years. Congratulations on that. Why has this marriage with you and the University of New Mexico been so perfect?
Wow. Yeah, it is kind of like a marriage. There's up and downs, and at the end of it all, it's I want to stay married. I don't want to be divorced from this university. And yeah, the grass is always greener, but the green grass here is perfect for me. I'm from New Mexico. I graduated, played on the golf team here at University of New Mexico. I was a club pro in town for 14 years before I started coaching. So this is my home, and I love it here. And the university for me is an ideal place to be. And I feel a sense of pride being the head coach, and just always trying to be better, and knowing that we have such a great facility in our city, and ideal weather and all of that. So I love it here. I'm a New Mexican at heart. I love our people. I love everything about it. So that's why I'm still here.
Sounds like a match made in heaven.
Yep, for sure.
Hey, Jill, with that being said, I mean, you just said a couple of things that really stuck out to me, and we were talking about this earlier on the show about what makes up coaches and the human interest story for you being a club pro in New Mexico. What made you decide you want to be a college coach?
Gosh, it being a club pro, I'm not sure that people think it's glamorous, but once you get to be a head pro, just the ins and outs of the business. I was fortunate to work at two really great places here in Albuquerque, but also having leadership change over you can sometimes make or break you. I think after 14 years, I was just ready for a change. I knew I still wanted to be in the golf business. Having my Class A PGA and LPGA, for me, it didn't make sense to move out of the golf industry. And then a spot came open to be an assistant coach here at UNM. Even though I was a little bit older, I was like, I think I could help. I think it could help out, while I'm looking for something else. And I just absolutely loved it. I loved working with 18 to 22-year-olds and trying to get them better. As a club pro, we give a lot of lessons. And we get a lot of people that come back to us again and again and again, and they're doing the same thing. And it's like you're trying to correct what they're doing, but it's the same thing. So with 18 to 22-year-olds, it's ever changing, totally different swings, all that kind of stuff. The challenge of it, trying to get behind them to tell them they can do things. I can and can't remember being 18 to 22. I just know sometimes you're in the depths of your despair. So I think a lot of times it's like, okay, who was that adult in my life that told me I could be better than what I was? What adult in my life at that time told me I had great talent and I can do better? So that, to me, it was like a give back to being a coach, but also like I didn't realize how much the college student would make me better too. So they always make me better. day in and day out, they make me better too. And they make me laugh a lot. I didn't
Awesome.
laugh a lot. I didn't laugh a lot being a head pro.
Yeah, no, that's a hard life. I've been there, done that as well, and it's very interesting how many hats you have to wear and how many bosses you have on a daily basis.
Right.
Little different world.
Coach, let's get into college coaching a little bit. We hear so much about in just daily life society about uh, how kids generations change, right? Every generation is different. You've kind of coached through it. Do you see gigantic differences in the ladies that play for you from even 10 years ago, or is today's player more ready to play college golf, or is it everything about the same?
So no, it's definitely not the same. So going back 20 years, now my first athletes that I had are in their 40s, which wow, I just still can't wrap my head around that. And then through the years, seeing what they've done. Some of them go on to be tour players, doctors, lawyers, police officers, you name it. Down the line. I think the big difference is when you're more of a mid-major school. I'm not sure what they want to call us now, but competing with the group of four, people tend to focus on the group of four, and then the mid-majors, like in our conference, us and San Jose State, UNLV, San Diego State, some of those up and coming, they might feel it's like an anomaly. Well, we've always been good. Yeah, we have down years just like every team, but we've always been good. And people knowing that New Mexico is a really great place to be is first and foremost. I feel like if we get a recruit out here and they see what we have, they're like, wow, I had no idea. But they do, because just having access to online, they can see what we have. But actually being here, New Mexico is the land of enchantment. We have a lot of things going. Throw in the money stuff, the NIL, the funding. I think a lot of schools put out there that they have more funding now. Well, what exactly does that mean? Recruits say, well, what's your funding like? Well, it used to mean full scholarship or fully funded. We can get people on academic and athletic, so fully funded was a big deal. Having your own practice facility is a big deal, and it still is. Having our own practice facility at our golf course. My office is here at the golf course. Their locker room is here, all that stuff. So people are getting that more. They're having these huge facilities, seeing that part of it. Yes, they're ready. What I don't see a lot more is multi-sport athletes. And to me, that is still kind of like, oh, you play basketball and soccer as well. Our Olympian, Mano DeRoy, she played field hockey. And so I knew she had a little bit of aggressive in her. Super sweet, right? But I knew she had a little bit of aggression in her. So you don't see a whole lot of multi-sport athletes now. Everybody has their own teacher. They have their way of doing things, which is fine too. So I've learned how to adapt and work in conjunction with their teachers. So it's same, but it's a little different.
It sounds like, Coach, there's a lot more on the line in some regards for a player who comes to let's call it a Power 5 school, or second tier major, mid major school, whatever you want to call them now, right? More on the line, because now with the PGAU, I hear rumors there's something the LPGA is trying to do something. They don't want to go and mess that opportunity up, but the opportunity still is there nonetheless. Better now than it used to be. How do you deal with that when a player's coming in and saying, well, I'm really only here because the opportunity to get my LPGA card might be on the line, or my PGA, that they have in place currently. That's important to them, and it's important to you as a coach, I'm sure. But as a player and as a parent, you're going, we're really only doing this because it's our best chance. Don't mess it up, or else we're going to move. Do you feel a little bit of that pressure?
Not much. Um, we're not going to get the player who is going to get the big NIL money, who looks more at like, oh, that team flies their own private jet. What we do have is we have an incredible competitive schedule to get them better. And yeah, there's a lot that there's just no way we're going to compete with things like that. But I think, and it's not even convincing, but showing them that, look, you come here, you are going to get better. We don't have the glitz and the glam that some other players might be looking for, but if you're all about hard work and getting to where you want to be, I'll help you get there. And so the ones that are I'm not saying that some of these other golfers aren't serious about making the tour and doing that, but the ones that are maybe not quite good enough to get that full ride to a bigger school and have all that stuff, but here they're going to get better. And I think there's a lot less movement in the transfer portal on the women's side for now. So I feel our players have a little more sense of loyalty, and they love it here in Albuquerque. They love our golf course and facility. And I mean, I'm pretty fun. I'm pretty funny too. I think it has a lot to do with the coach too. So if we click with a player, like I can go back to Jody Ewart Shadoff, who was one of my players, and she picked us over USC at the time. Mano DeRoy picked us over some bigger schools. I have a few current players now that picked us over some bigger schools because they always have a home here. They graduate, and this is a great place to play and practice. The Mountain West, we also have our conference championship at the Dinah Shore course, which is where our first stage of Q School is. So that's a huge advantage. Through your senior year, you've played it 16 times. You've played the Dinah Shore course 16 times before you graduate. So right now, our player, Lauren Lehigh, just got through. We have more players in the Mountain West Conference that get through first stage than I've seen before we started playing at the Dinah Shore course. So that's a huge advantage too.
That is great recruiting tool. Speaking of recruiting, what is your current philosophy? Is it are you geographic where you start? Is it you start with the entire world, that you'll take international, that you just kind of go off of rankings to create a list? What is the philosophy before, as you drill down, and then maybe offer those 2 or 3 players?
To start, I've always wanted players who love to play golf. Some of the other stuff, you'll see a little bit of a swing thing here, you'll see a little bit of a short game thing here, but it's almost like a forecasting with the business. Can that player get better? I've heard people say things like, if you say somebody has potential, that means they haven't done anything yet. So I like to get players who've done something, but then they can also get better. And that's the trick of it all, isn't it? Like, you don't want to be recruiting a 16 or 17-year-old knowing that that's as good as they're going to be. So there's little things to look for. So number one, though, for me is, do they love to play the game? Because there's so many college players out there who do not. And you can tell by the way they act on the golf course, how they act with their parents. If any junior golfer and their parents are listening to this podcast right now, it's like, find the joy of the game again. I love this game. I love the smell of the grass in the morning when it's first cut. I love to watch them whip the dew off the green. I love to watch the sunrise. I love everything about this game. So I want my players to love this game too. And sometimes, yes, it's a love-hate. Eventually you come back to it and love the game.
Yeah, Coach, you mentioned that potential word, right? And I know we had the great pleasure of coming out and spending some time with your team and the men's team there a couple of years ago with PDI and doing some measurements there. And that, in fact, is what our goal is to help coaches, help players understand where their skills are, not only just their golf skills, but their physical skills, their mental skills, but then also that game, the performance, right? So you have to have a score and kind of have some reference of what those skills lead to, right? So as that is progressing, I'd love to get your take on what, is that something you see as a futuristic ideal for, coaches and players to say, hey, you know what, you need to get some understanding of where you are from a skill perspective, but also understand the realistic thing is your scores are just not where they need to be.
Yeah, that's you hit the nail right on the head there. We watch so many players through the years. And to finish up that question you asked about a world stage, yes, we have a mix of local, U.S., international players, and it just depends on the year. I think where a lot of junior golfers miss out is thinking that, I can shoot in the low 70s in high school, not realizing that we play much longer, more difficult golf courses. So I think that's a surprise to a lot of junior golfers when they go play like a U.S. Girls Junior qualifier, or they make it to the U.S. Girls and realize, but they have to do that. You can't replace experience. You have to go to those tournaments, and that's why I think the PDI assessment and those kind of things that you guys do there are super important, because then they have something to go off. I think a lot of players who don't get out of their state much, which might not be a fault of their own, there's a lot of money involved in certain things, but just knowing what it's like to compete. I'm from New Mexico, a small town in New Mexico. I played here, and I was the big fish, even though I'm a very small person. I was the big fish, and I knew I could play, and I was very competitive too. And then coming here, and all my teammates ended up being on the LPGA tour.
Wow.
So that's what I walked into, and they were all like 5'10" and 5'11". I'm just 5 foot tall, right? But having nobody knew that or told me that when I was a junior golfer. So being thrown into something like that, and then realizing, okay, on my own with the help of my coach, who was good, but realizing I had to do a lot of it on my own. So a lot of these junior golfers, a lot of them want to be told what to do instead of like figuring it out. Okay, I shot 77 today, and that girl I played with shot even. What was the difference? So having the mindset of that competitive mindset, and knowing, okay, what do I need to do to get better? Not just score wise, but on the, she chipped it to within, 3 feet every single time, where I have a 10-footer.
Right.
Where can I get that advantage the next time I come out to play? Right? So those are the players that we all look for. The ones who can see what they need to do, and they do it, and they do everything possible to do that. So that's the kind of player that I like to get.
Yeah, and you've gotten a lot of those players over the years for sure. We see it. Obviously, it's obvious to your record and what those players are doing. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
Coach, when you look at bringing in a player, do you ask them, is it important to you? Do you want a junior player to say, my goal is to play on the LPGA Tour, my goal is to be a major champion? Or if you get a player that says, my goal is to be a doctor, is for your recruiting, for what you want to hear, does that matter what their ultimate goal is?
I would say hands down, every single junior golfer that I talk to says they want to play the tour. Every single one. So as they progress through their freshman, junior, sophomore, junior year to their senior year, what they want in life may have changed, shifted a little bit. But if they still want to play the tour and do that by their senior year, then that's kind of what they wanted, and from the get-go, and they continue on with that. I do have plenty that say ultimately I want to be a doctor, but I want to see where the game takes me first, you know, and I'm of the opinion that a young woman coming to school, I want them to get the degree that they want. You know, yeah, it messes with our schedule a little bit, our practice schedule in that. So it's important that my recruits also have good grades in high school so that I know they can get through college by missing class so much. But they might, we had one that just graduated, Maya McDonald, who she could play professionally. She's good enough, but she wants to be a doctor.
Mm.
And so that she still had the desire, but it like waned.
Yeah.
Whereas Lauren Lehigh, who just graduated and just got through stage 1, she also has a really good degree, but she wants to proceed with being professional, and she's succeeding so far. So,
Yeah.
so yeah, hands down. I talked to once June 15th. What do you want? I want to play. I want to play the LPGA. Hands down, all the time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and Coach, and now you may not remember this, but I know we were having a conversation there, and you had mentioned something about the discipline. You know, your players. One, you've done an outstanding job, or your players do an outstanding job with academics. You guys are perennial, always top team academics in the nation, and obviously the players are doing well on the golf course. And you were talking about how that player who's disciplined, you know, is also disciplined in the classroom, they're disciplined in golf. Is that something that you look for in their actions when they come, when you're recruiting them and you're out on the golf course and you're watching them? Are you watching some of that? Is that why you're able to recruit such, you know, disciplined players that do well on both sides?
Yeah, I think part of it too is like, if they're not quite as disciplined as they should be, then they're going to be that way once they get here. Because the upperclassmen have a lot more power sometimes than they think, and leading by example is important too. So, you know, telling an incoming freshman when they go out, yeah, no, we don't do that here. You know, this is what you need to do because we all want to be the best, and this is how we're going to get there. And yeah, it's partially coach driven, but it's mostly student athlete driven. And to me, I've found in the past that when it's more team driven, and I'm a little more hands off, then a lot better things happen. Because then I'm not the one telling them what they have to do every single day. Guiding them a little bit, like, what kind of practices do you want to have today? Where do you want to get? If you're a little lost, okay, here's a good drill that we're going to do, and then lead them as they get older to coming out and knowing exactly what they want to do, looking at their stats and seeing where their weaknesses are and their strengths, and working on all of it. So to me, that's my success story. Is that when they leave here, they are independent young women who know what they want and know how to get there. And I teach them how to fix a flat tire here and there too.
Good for you. Good for you. Last two for me, and I'm curious how this might affect what you guys are doing in October. You can watch the University of New Mexico, both their men and women's team, October 7th and 8th on Golf Channel, playing in a match play event, both men's and women's team from Texas, Stanford, New Mexico State, and as I said, University of New Mexico. One, how exciting is it for the team and you and your team, your ladies, to know that parents, relatives, friends, everyone, they are going to take that next step towards, you know, the LPGA or whatever, playing on national television? And then two, in a match play event or in a season altogether, it's a long season. College golf is both fall and spring. How important is it that a team gets along with one another?
Oh yeah, those are really good questions. So first of all, being on the Golf Channel as a golfer, that's like the ultimate when you're not a professional yet and you can get on the Golf Channel. You know, we got a little bit of airtime 2 years ago at the national championship when we just missed match play, just a little bit.
You're right there.
We were right there. So that part, when we first announced it, I think they all just kind of stared at me a little bit like, what are you talking about? This channel's going to come here to New Mexico? And I'm like, yes. That guy Noda you met the other day, he's kind of a big deal. So he practices here at our course too. And if I introduce him to the players who haven't played in his NB3 stuff, they're like, hi. And then I was like, you watch the Masters, right? And they're like, yeah. Do you recognize him from commentating? Oh yeah, so yeah, they did. They just stared at me a little bit like, okay, on the Golf Channel. But now I think it's sinking in a lot more that this is going to happen, which is amazing. I think the world stage of the Balloon Fiesta being here, which kudos to you guys for wanting to run a big event like this during the Balloon Fiesta. So it's just amazing. If you've not been to the Balloon Fiesta, it's the most amazing sight. It never gets old. We had the Eclipse line come right through Albuquerque last year during the Balloon Fiesta.
Wow.
And it's something that I'll never forget in my entire life. And it's super exciting, the whole Balloon Fiesta. And then your second question about teams getting along. Our team and our men's team, they're very good friends. They hang out together outside of the golf course. I think there's going to be a lot of good high-fiving between them, and together both teams we're going to want to take down some I think we're going to want to take down some teams a little bit. And the getting along, match play is just such a different animal, like we usually, when they're playing stroke play and they look back and wave at their teammate behind them and stuff like that, but they don't know how they're doing.
Right. Yeah.
But you can certainly, when you win a hole with a great putt, you can certainly see the fist pumping going on and like, yeah, I just took, so to me, that's super exciting. And, you got the Solheim Cup coming up and the President's Cup. And that's what that, seeing the match play portion of that, I think that's what we're looking forward to for sure.
Coach, saying that, and Ryan, we have to make sure we share this with all the teams that are in the event. I'm sure every coach would want to hear the competition that's coming out in Jill today. So,
yeah. I've never really been accused of not being competitive.
But what I was going to say was that I was thinking about the match play portion of this and what's happening now and all the match play that is going on, and how is that going to relate and be better for our overall national programs or our teams for the Walker Cup, the Solheim Cup, the President's Cup, whatever there is now that we're going to be playing against other countries that actually do match play much more often than we do. How much better that's going to be.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we have in our USGA events, the girls junior and the amateur and stuff, stroke play to match play. And yeah, stroke play gets you in there to the match play, but the match play is just like, it's that one-on-one, one against one. And ultimately for us, it winds up being a team thing. So nobody wants to be the player that loses their match.
Right.
Especially in a team situation like this, nobody wants to be that player. So, them pushing each other to win, like that's like that pump of adrenaline in you. That's like, it's not like the philosophy of I'm not going to let my team down. It's more like I'm going to make sure my team gets that point, and I'm going to stop right here.
Yeah. Love that. Great culture.
Me too.
We can't wait to see you out there, Coach. Like I said, everything you've built, it's amazing culture and tradition that exists at the University of New Mexico. Congratulations again on the 18th season, and we'll see you on Golf Channel in October. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thank you very much. Super excited. October 8th and 9th. We're there.
We'll see you there. Thank you.
Awesome. Good luck. Thanks, Coach. We'll see you soon.
See you.
And Roger, wow, a lot of takeaways there. I'm curious. You take a coach that has experienced a PDI, understands what it is. When they recruit on you're going to be a better player for coming here and then going on to whatever the next stage of your career is. I'm not sure every school tells you that. In fact, I know they don't. What an advantage for one to be a professional like she is as a teacher, but also to be able to use things like PDI that, part of golf is identifying what needs to be improved. I feel like the biggest problem with junior golf is the lack of structure in practice. Sure, you see your teacher gets you for an hour, might put you on TrackMan, might put some alignment sticks down. You're one of, and this is not crushing teachers, you're one of maybe 11 people they're going to see that day, one of 300 they're going to see that week. You're obviously very important. You have a relationship with them, but for the rest of the time, and let's be honest, it's expensive to get coaching. It might be once a month you see that teacher, which means now you're on your own. And I cannot tell you how many really good players go to the range, bang balls, maybe go through each club. I see the pitching wedge in the 60, maybe 4 or 5 hits, and it's back in the bag. And pounding driver, and then go play. And the reality is that's what most kids are doing.
Yeah.
And they're going to decide whether they had a good practice on what their score is that day. And I'm curious if you agree with this. I think a golf score is arbitrary. And the reason I say that is if I go play 5 days this week, and today I shoot 70, and Friday I shoot 81, am I really that different of a golfer? Or did I get plugged in a bunker? Did on my 70, I made 4 25-footers, and on Friday, I 3-putted from 25 feet? Like, am I really that different of a golfer? Yet, we're going to make giant assessments on that golf score. My point of this is, I think the biggest problem with American golf right now is kids don't get better when they practice. There's no routine.
Kids don't get better. Generally, adults don't get better. Generally, most golfers don't get better when they just go practice without a real purpose. I think what you're saying about score being, let's call it, I don't want to say arbitrary or irrelevant. I mean, it is an indicator, right? It is an indicator of that day, whatever it may be. It's not an indicator of how your skills are progressing necessarily, right? If you don't know. And I go back to, I don't know who said it, but anyway, some quote saying that, the difference between amateurs and professionals are amateurs will do it until they get it right, and professionals will work until they don't get it wrong, right? So, and they do that meaning that they're working on the skills. Like I remember working with Nick Faldo for many years down in Orlando, and him out there just grinding over mechanical things that were associated with his hitting a little 3-yard chip, a 10-yard chip, a 75-yard chip, and then flighting it different ways, but then grinding over that on getting it so that it was so good that he couldn't miss, so that when he got to tournaments or major championships, he didn't have to worry about whether he had the skills to compete or not. It just was, in fact, now, how do I get the ball in the hole? And I know how to do that. I have the skills to do that. The confidence that he had at that time, and probably has in his skills even today, is probably just so dependent on that development, right? Where kids will go out, to your point, they'll hit drivers galore, and they hit a good one, they go, oh, I got it, I'm going out to the golf course, and that's how I'm going to hit every drive today. But yet, if you look back in their development going, well, they don't really hit their driver that well.
Right.
Well, they think they do because they hit that one or two good ones on the range and they stop. Same thing with putting, same thing with chipping. So that is in fact one reason why we wanted to work towards building something that gave every player the opportunity to say, I can improve my skills without focusing on score and being relative to a score. That's just a lag factor that will happen as my skills get better, right? Now, the other part of that, the equation is the handicap, right? So everybody plays off a handicap that is most likely not even a true number because they're going, well, equitable stroke says I take a double bogey or I take a bogey and that's all I can do. And then don't record all their shots or don't make all their putts and that kind of thing, right? So it doesn't really give a player a good indication whether they're actually developing or getting better or just so that they can go out and play golf with their buddies, right? A junior golfer trying to or aspiring to play at the collegiate level or professional level, they got to know their skill sets, mental skills, physical skill. What's the lead factor causing the issues in their swing or causing their inability to control their golf ball? Really just comes down to the causation of maybe it's a mental block that day because not because they have a mental block, just because they had an overload of schoolwork or overload of chores that they had to get done before their parents came up, whatever it may be. It may not just be golf skills, right? It may not be a physical skill. So I think that's something to your point. I do believe that we can, hopefully educate, players on player development better, that, a golf score, more golf tournaments isn't player development, and I think, if I'm kind of going down a rabbit hole here, Ryan, but, the fact is that, a lot of associations or golf organizations are throwing out more and more junior golf tournaments without anything in between the events to help the players actually get better and understand that that's where they actually get better, not because they're out playing in multiple tournaments and having to make this decision to spend all this money on travel to tournaments.
Yeah, we're on the. I'll look in the camera and I'll say this, and no one sees as much junior golf as I do. Certainly, it's become our lives. Period. Practice, how kids prepare, is the biggest problem with junior golf. So, not only is PDI in the next year going to ultimately be a massive recruiting tool that coaches use, take that completely aside, that it might be what ultimately gets your son or daughter recruited, because I believe that metric is going to become a part of recruiting. But let's take that even out of the equation. If you, son or daughter, want to get better, they have to know what to work on. They have to have a routine and a plan. Just simply do a PDI self-assessment. Just take your son or daughter for one day out of their routine and go through the PDI self-assessment, and then sit down, look at the results, and have an understanding of why something isn't happening. And I bet if you then go look at tournaments, you'll see a direct relation to spots where you lost strokes because exactly what that self-assessment is going to tell you.
100%. I mean, that is in fact true, because score's a lag factor, stats are a lag factor. It's not the causation, it's a correlation possibly, but causation starts with why is something not the way it is, right? And fixing the why, not fixing the what, right? So if you understand that, then all of a sudden getting better is just a process. It's not hey, I go get better and I have a good score and therefore I'm fixed and I don't need to work on it. I just need to go warm up. It's a process. And I think that's something you hear all the best players in the world talk about, but yet for some reason you get a lot of junior golfers and parents saying, well, we just got to get in this tournament to get this ranking up or get this score in. Focus on the process. Focus on working on what matters. That will all change.
JuniorGolfHub.com. Do yourself a favor. Just go through the process for 1 week, where you break things up from hitting for 15 minutes and going and playing, or whatever the routine is after school. Just go through the process, and your child will have fun with it because they're competitive, and two, it's going to identify, most importantly, what needs to be worked on. So maybe this identifies that your chipping, your bunker play is where you're massively losing strokes. Well, instead of that every Friday in the third week of the month when you go for instruction, instead of running the exact same lesson that you had a month ago where you go 7-iron, well, you want to hit driver, you actually go in the sand and you spend an hour on what is really costing them strokes, and PDI will identify that for you. So, all right, that's my
yeah. And ask your coach to run an assessment on you, right?
Right.
Hey, ask the coach. More and more, coaches out there are asking, how do I get certified? How do I do this?
Yeah.
I want to help my players better. I mean, it's not that they're lacking in their knowledge. Sometimes it's just lacking in a resource that will just help identify that in a much, greater, faster fashion.
Right. And identifying your weakness and then being able to practice it instead of just going through a carbon copy routine is the way to go. Certainly, we thank Coach Trujillo. Incredible 18 years at the University of New Mexico. Roger, a proud PDI subscriber to the theories and everything that you guys have built. Ran over today. Apologize to everyone, trying to keep them a little bit shorter, but we got a lot to get to. So for our director and producer, Michael Nick, for Roger, I'm Brian saying until next time, so long from the hub of Junior Golf Podcast.